This story is based on my friend's personal experience. My friend and her family had just bought a mansion in Dalat. If you've ever been there, you know it's one of Vietnam's most beautiful tourist towns. The cool air, the pine trees, and the romantic scenery. Houses there usually sell for $3 or $4 million, but somehow they managed to buy a giant mansion for half the price. The deal seemed too good to pass up. They already owned several houses, so this one was meant to be their vacation home. The wife, my friend, said she didn't even ask around why it was so cheap. She only did a quick tour and trusted the real estate agent because he was someone she worked with for buying a couple houses in the past, and the house price, of course. At the time, she thought she'd scored the deal of a lifetime, but she would soon realize that house came with a price no one should ever pay. On the housewarming day, they invited close friends and relatives to celebrate. The mood was cheerful. People laughed, ate, and admired the mansion, but not everyone was comfortable. Among the guests was a female friend of the husband. During lunch, she pulled him aside. Her voice was serious. She told him, "I don't want to tell you, because you just bought the house. But you need to be careful in this house. The energy here is very bad." The husband looked confused, but she continued, "When I walked up to the gate, I saw children playing under the trees in the front yard. They ran up the tree so fast." While those words were still sinking in, a cry pierced the air. It was their young son, upstairs with the nanny. He suddenly burst into tears, screaming uncontrollably. The nanny rushed down, pale, saying he had never cried like that before. "Something frightened him," she whispered. As if that wasn't enough, another guest screamed after using the restroom, claiming to have seen two pale white legs under the restroom door. The wife, skeptical and annoyed, went to check herself. She opened every cabinet, every door. Nothing. She was ready to laugh it off when the nanny behind her suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. She collapsed to the floor. When they revived her, she whispered she saw two pale, bluish legs like those of a drowned corpse sitting on the wife's shoulders. From the knees down to the toes, balanced there as if something invisible was riding her back. The wife seemed a little bit tense since the nanny looked very serious. The female friend jumped in and said, "This isn't just about scaring you. If we stay longer, one of us will die tonight." She turned to the husband and gave him instructions. "Go upstairs. On the top floor, turn left. You'll find a room used for rituals. Burn incense there." The husband asked an older man among the guests to go with him. They climbed to the second floor. But halfway up, the husband noticed the old man drifting toward another room. He called out, but the man didn't answer. He followed him into the room. And suddenly, the old man was gone. The husband searched every corner, but he couldn't find anyone. Finally, he crouched and peeked under the bed. That's when a child's face slid out of the shadows, pale, grinning, inches from his own. He screamed, stumbling back, and ran downstairs. The female friend said the old man hadn't disappeared. His soul had been stolen, and because he was old, the spirits might keep him for good. She asked another guest to run to her house and bring back her ritual tools. While waiting, she grabbed a metal cooking pot and a stick. She led the husband upstairs, calling the old man's name and date of birth. With each call, she struck the pot hard, the metallic echo ringing through the house like a beacon. At first, there was nothing. Then slowly, the old man appeared in the hallway. But something was wrong. He hopped on one leg, his eyes fixed on the female friend. His lips curled into a mocking smile. It wasn't him fully. Something else was in control. The female friend shouted to the husband, "Quick, get me a live chicken." He ran to the neighbors, bought chicken in the neighborhood market. When he brought it back, the female friend began chanting, her voice rising and falling like waves. She held the chicken firmly, whispered ancient words, and with a sudden twist, snapped its neck. Warm blood spilled onto the floor. She flung it onto the old man, each drop sizzling as if it burned unseen skin. He collapsed, gasping for breath, and slowly his eyes cleared. But the day was far from over. The female friend warned them that they had to know what they were dealing with. She told the wife, "Ask the neighbors. Ask the seller. Someone knows the truth about this house." The wife called the seller first. He avoided her questions, brushed her off, and insisted the house only needed renovations. So she walked across the street to a small convenience store. She saw an old lady in the store. Pretending to buy drinks, the wife casually mentioned her family had just bought the mansion. She said they might relocate and live there permanently. The old woman froze, and there was disbelief showing on her face. "You bought that house?" she asked. Then she sighed. The wife saw that and asked if there's anything wrong with the house, and if she knew the history of the house. Then the old lady asked her back why the wife asked that. She saw something? The wife then said she personally did not believe in those spirits, but her husband and a few from the guest seemed to see supernatural things. The old woman sighed again and finally told her what happened. That house was new. It was built not long ago. At first, the owners built it for business. They wanted to rent it out as an Airbnb. And in the beginning, everything seemed normal, nothing strange, until one couple came here for vacation. The old woman explained how she had met them. They had stopped at her store to buy instant noodles and beer. A young, happy pair. But later that day, they were in a small traffic accident, not a serious one. The boyfriend was hit in the chest, but he seemed fine. No broken bones, no visible injuries. They laughed it off, thinking it was nothing. But they didn't know his lung was bleeding inside. That night, when they returned to the house, he collapsed and died suddenly in their room. His girlfriend screamed, calling the police and the ambulance, but it was too late. He was carried out of the house, dead. The story spread quickly around the neighborhood. People talked about it for weeks, then slowly forgot. They thought it was just an unfortunate accident. Soon after, the owners sold it to someone else. And then, tragedy struck again. The old woman said she didn't know much about this next buyer. But one day, the house was surrounded by police and curious neighbors. An ambulance came. They carried out a dead body. This time, it was a woman. She had drowned in the pool. People said the pool is not even deep. Before long, that owner sold the house to yet another family. And once again, disaster followed. The police and the ambulance came. Neighbors gathered at the gate. This time, it was a child, a young boy. He had drowned in the same pool. The old woman remembered the sound of the mother's cries, so loud, so broken that she fainted right there on the ground. The old woman's voice grew heavy. I felt so sorry for that child. I don't know how his parents weren't watching him more carefully, but after that, everyone knew. That house is cursed and famous in the neighborhood. Almost everyone around here knows its history. I don't understand why people keep buying it, even cheap. It should be abandoned. The wife's heart pounded, started to believe evil things had happened to the house. She rushed back home, desperate to get her children out. But the female friend stopped them and said, "You can't just leave like this. If you walk away now, they'll follow you. I need to perform a ritual first, to bind them here." Everyone gathered and waited anxiously until her ritual things finally arrived. She spread them carefully across the living room floor. Incense sticks, paper charms, a bowl of rice, and small offerings. It was getting dark, and the house grew unnaturally quiet. Even the night insects outside seemed to hush. Lighting the incense, she began chanting, not in a language most of them understood, but in tones that rose and fell like waves. Her voice filled the house, echoing against the high walls. The air grew heavy, the smoke curling into strange shapes. She addressed the spirit directly. The little boy who had drowned. Her words were gentle, coaxing, like a mother speaking to her child. You're still so young. You don't belong here among these angry spirits. Come with me instead. I'll feed you, care for you, and guide you to a new life. Don't listen to others filled with hatred. They only want to hurt the living. You deserve peace, not vengeance. As she chanted, a cold draft swept through the room. Some guests swore they heard faint splashes, like water dripping from invisible feet across the tiles. A shadow flickered in the corner, small and childlike, but no one dared to speak. The female friend kept chanting, louder, stronger, until finally she snapped the last charm into the incense flame. The fire hissed, and just like that, the heaviness lifted. No one knew if the boy's spirit had truly left. Only the female friend could say. But her face was pale with sweat, her hands trembling. She turned to the husband and wife. Her warning was sharp and clear. On your way home, if you hear voices, if someone calls your name, or if you see something strange, ignore it. Don't answer. Don't look back. That night, the husband drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. The road was dark and empty. The children slept in the back, the wife staring nervously out the window. Then suddenly, he saw a woman standing on the side of the freeway. Perfectly still. Her body leaned forward as if she was about to throw herself into the car's path. His first instinct was to swerve. But her friend's words echoed in his head. Don't turn back. Don't react. He swallowed hard and asked his wife, "Do you see her?" The wife frowned, confused. "See who? There's no one there." His blood ran cold. He forced his eyes straight ahead, kept his foot steady on the gas. At that very moment, a massive truck thundered past them in the next lane, so close the wind shook their car. If he had swerved to avoid the woman, they would all have been crushed instantly.